gas ourselves up, but we short on breath. Talking about we eating, but who we really cooking. Dreaming about greens, but ain't nobody looking. No land, no acres, no seeds in the ground. When the hunger hits, who's gonna be around? We starving every day, and it just ain't the food. Feeding the hood garbage, got 'em acting a fool. We flossing with rides, stunting with chains, but these bars we spitting just bring more pain. We guilty as hell, preaching all these lies, selling debt to the kids, and we acting surprised. We commercialize the pain, broadcast the grief, tell the youth to hustle, but hide the beef. We glorify the trap, invite them to the flames, just like Reagan brought the crack on planes. Back in the 80s when the streets got soaked, my people, my brothers, all got choked. Reagan said no trades, but we know the deal. He left us in the dirt, man, that shit was real. I was just a shorty watching it unfold, old enough to see how we got sold. War on drugs, but it was war on us. Cops on our necks, no love, no trust. They labeled us thugs, beast on the block, made us kiss the pavement while they cleaned our clock. Prison became business thanks to Reagan's game. Free labor is the truth in America's name. Slavery's dead, man. That's just a word. Read the 13th Amendment. It's still absurd. They lock us in cages, serving time for life. Double digits for wisdom, cutting sharp like a knife. I'm here to say, the chains in the air, it's time we break free, start showing we care. No more flexing for nothing, no more selling out. It's time to rise up. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And you already know how I start this independent music. And this morning I got 250 Ricky, Stand Up and Fight. And we'll be right back right after this. Yo, get down, bro! You gotta stand up and fight.
Stand up and fight. I can't lie, I lost my momentum from investing into other niggas. Turn on me, say I ain't did nothing for him. Fuck a nigga, bro, I ain't got nothing for him. Ain't no love lost, bro, I'm just focused now. Don't nothing inside me but motion now. Believe that internet shit if you want to. Run up if you want, I'ma smoke them now. Had to go back to the streets with it. No security with me, got the streets with me. Hellcat, put my motherfucking feet in it. I hit Suge on the beach, I was deep in it. Deep. Rap game slowed up for me. I went got some lows, 600 a piece. I put 4 on him. He ran off with my shit, need a low on him. I'm looking for him right now. Put some chicken on him, get him Swiss cheese. Told me nothing, I told the bitch please. I'm a blessing, walk up, make a bitch sneeze. Put some dick in her throat, till the bitch breathe. Can't bring nothing to the table, then bitch leave. If she talking too much, tell the bitch free. Louis Pillar, I bought for the bitch need. Fuck that bitch and went bought up Philly cheese. Marco Drake and the switch, all a nigga need. I bet they get some egg right. If she give you some pussy and you tell the business, you know you a rat, right? No, you better relax, right? You know you can get smacked, right? I go get it myself. I gotta make sure that motherfucking pack right. I got my sack right. Gucci loafers, no socks, let my ankle show. He get money, that nigga a hater though. If she don't wanna go, I'ma make her go. If that bitch ain't a hoe, I'ma make her one. Make a living on me, you ain't taking none. Bouncing back like the crack in the 80s, huh? Smoking Zop, popping perks like I'm 81. 8 tricks make me sleep like a baby, huh? Whatever you say, you gotta stand on, you gotta stand firm. You know what I'm saying? I know you nigga want me to lay down, you know what I'm saying? But I got something to stand for, nigga. 2 of them.
That was 250 Ricky, Stand Up and Help. Stand Up and Fight. I don't know why I said that shit. So, like I said, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Wednesday. I'm doing today's episode a little bit different. Talking about, you know, my 31 history, my criminal record. I'm talking all the way back since 1995 up until today. But also I want to show people how I've changed, how I'm trying to make the situation better for Black people And the first thing that I want to show you is this goes all the way back to 2020. It's my walk for humanity, and I walked from Pine Island, Minnesota, to St. Paul, Minnesota, to the state capital. In my walk, it was Terry Willis walked all the way from, I believe it was Alabama, up to George Floyd Square, and that's what motivated me. Also, you had two other people, Frank Nitti and Cortez Rice, and they did theirs from Milwaukee to Washington D.C. Uh, I did mine from Pine Island to St. Paul, and I walked for at that time, and I still believe I'm fighting for the same thing as humanity. I'm once we know better, we do better. So I want to show you. I think this video is like 5 minutes long, and so I got to know Peter Schleppner, who owns Hastings now, and he's the one that put together this video. And it was just I got goosebumps. Me and Ashley were sitting here watching it this morning, and both of us kind of got goosebumps. So just sit back and watch this and enjoy. It's not even playing right now. Let me do it over. Already off to a bad morning. Let's see. That's crazy. Let's start this over. So this is my walk for humanity that happened back in 2020, and this is from, like I said again, Hastings now, Peter Schleppner. So just sit back and watch this. It's almost about 6 minutes long. My name is Chaz Neal, Chazneal. The reason that I'm doing this is I'm from Red Wing. Not from, but I lived there. And there, with everything since Mr. Floyd passed away or was murdered, May 25th, just really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and just really not okay with how the system works. The system is ran. So instead of being quiet and just going on with everyday life, I decided to fight back.
lost my balance. And you know, that's when the colors started to change.
My name's Bryce, and I've lived in the cities. I lived in St. Paul, I lived in Minneapolis, I lived in Fridley, and I've lived out in the country. I've lived in Ellsworth and Boyceville and Menominee and Woodville, and now I live here in this town. And I've worked jobs that bring me into people's homes. I've worked as a contractor and I've worked in pest control, and I've seen Nazi flags in basements and Confederate flags in garages. And I've heard the things people say in their homes. And I've been to the protests in Minneapolis, and to see the people here is just as important. Because it doesn't matter if we make ourselves seen in the cities and make changes there if we can't change the country. So you guys from Pine Island and Cannon Falls,
When are we gonna go, Karen?
I know there's not as many of you as there are in the cities, but you're just as important.
Yes.
All of us here. Let's see my baby girls. They play with their cousins. We're biracial. And they don't see anything different. It doesn't matter to them, and that's how it should stay.
They weren't talking to God.
So, everybody being here, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Man, that was 6 years ago. Damn. I mean, it's crazy to even to go back to that time. And I never said I was perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like my whole 6 years into this, the first time, like that first year, I never wanted to get in front of like crowds or even be in front of talk. I wasn't there for that. It wasn't about me. It was about how I wanted change. I was like watching that George Floyd video on Facebook. That changed my life. That changed my course of direction that I was heading, because the day before that I was selling drugs. I mean, that's no lie. I was in Red Wing, and I was selling drugs. I had a stash house right by Quick Trip, that they called it the ghetto Quick Trip or whatever.
Uh, but yeah, that's what I was doing. I was selling evil in my own communities. And that's just something that I've had to live with. That's something that I've had to deal with. That's nobody else. That's me. I have to put that on me. I can't put that on anybody else because I'm the one that did it. Another thing that in the course of this journey that I've had, I'm going to take you to 2021 or 2021, when it started for me back in, like I said, 2020. And it took me a while to get this passed. It took me about almost a little over a year. I worked with people in the Human Rights Commission, and they tried to change a lot of wording, and I just wanted teeth in it. And I remember sitting at the band shell. It was me, Dean Ho. I was another council member. And one of the things that I took away from that meeting, because we were talking about, racism and what we could actually, do about it. And the thing that I took away is like the city only passes things that makes the city money. What does the city get out of it? Because if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So that's the one thing that I took with me the whole, damn near my whole journey, right? Because it does make sense. Why would the government want to do anything? So this article is about 5 minutes long. But here is racism and public health emergency, how Red Wing made that declaration.
Racism has been declared a public health emergency in the city of Red Wing. The 820-word resolution passed by the City Council on Monday, August 9th explains in part that racism has various forms including historical, individual and systemic, and that has not only continued to present day but has been institutionalized to ensure the concentration of material, power and resources into the hands of white-bodied individuals. The city now will seek to combat racism by working to reduce the impact of racism, implementing a racial equity plan. These impacts include mental health care, drug treatment, food deserts, housing, zoning, hiring practices, youth opportunities, and other aspects of life. Partnering with local municipalities and entities to identify and implement initiatives that will have the most impact on health disparities caused by racism. Setting aside a dedicated fund for supporting racial equity initiatives and collecting data. Working with the city's Human Rights Commission, advisory team on policies and practices, and internal committees to identify improvements that can be made to reduce the impacts of racism within city government. Increasing access to equitable mental health services. Working with the Red Wing Youth Commission to support the development of more opportunities for marginalized youth. Q&A with Chaz Neal. Chaz Neal proposed the resolution and presented a draft to the city in 2020. He answered questions about the resolution and steps moving forward. Why did you present a resolution to declare racism a public health emergency? What documents and research did you base your resolution on? I decided to present the resolution after seeing the process unfold in Minneapolis. I knew it wouldn't change things instantly, but it was a starting point that Red Wing hasn't tried or even attempted to make equity and equality for blacks. For research, I looked at numerous data and statistics from housing, education, public safety, the Minnesota Department of Health's website on the impact of racism on health to the court system, as well what other cities were doing with action plans and what steps they were taking, including Olmsted, Hennepin and Ramsey counties. When and why did you decide to draft the resolution and present it to the city? How was it received? When I saw the video of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, I knew that there had to be change and significant change. I started protesting and over time racked up charge after charge, so I wanted to fight another way in changing policy. The resolution wasn't received very well from elected officials who felt the time wasn't right, but I proceeded with it anyway. What was the process of moving from proposal to passage? The process was a long one. I presented the original resolution on October 26, 2020, where they sent it to the Human Rights Commission, who in return didn't touch it until January during the year's work plan on January 28 when they formed a committee with 4 HRC members. I was added as an honorary commissioner. The resolution that was passed is the second edit to the first one, which was 1,462 words. The one passed was only 705 words. The process was that long, I feel, because no elected official wanted to touch it, I feel. While the resolution was being discussed by the Human Rights Commission and the City Council, how were you a part of their discussions? I have been a part of the discussion from the very beginning and every step of the way. I wanted to make sure that black voices were heard, and when I say blacks, I mean African descendants of slavery, the forgotten and most silenced people. What should readers know about the resolution? I want readers to know this resolution doesn't proclaim that Red Wing residents are racist. This resolution is about accountability and correcting systematic racism and discrimination in city policy and procedures. It also ignites help to the most affected with housing and education, funding more black and brown businesses. I would like the readers to know this isn't about a handout or about freeloading. It's about making sure that black and brown aren't left out of important decisions going forward, and adding diversity throughout City Hall and making sure that everyone has a seat at the table. Many of the council members and public speakers noted on Monday that this resolution is a start. Do you have thoughts for next steps? To be honest, getting the resolution presented and passed was the easy part of all this, because the next step is to actually dismantle the systematic racism at the knees. The council has to be willing to dig in and do the work, not to let city staff do the work. There are community residents that are able-bodied and ready to do the hard work that needs to be done, but we have to do it unified and not divided the way the city has been for years.
That is a resolution that I had started the process back in 2020, and the process wasn't easy. It was it was a really hard step, especially when you had blacks. They call themselves blacks. Were going up against you, and saying that, oh, you're being racist, you're doing this, you're doing that. When in actuality, I just wanted to be. We were so out of the conversations so much, and I gotta say it, when you go back into like the end of slavery, black people have always been on the outside looking in. We never really, even when Obama was the president, I feel like black people, because to me, they tried to pump up Obama that he was a black man, but he's a black immigrant, and that's not. I'm not trying to take anything away against Obama, because I know he was born in, I guess, Hawaii or whatever, but his dad was a Kenyan, and his mother was from Asia or some shit, but he was born in Hawaii. And that has been my whole problem with America policy, is they've left black people behind, no matter if it came to, and I know people gonna be like, what? The Civil Rights Act, 1965, that was supposed to change so much, but the only thing changed was for LGBTQ people and immigrants. That it wasn't. That's the one thing. Black people have been left behind, and that's what the crazy part is. Of you go back and you listen to Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. They spoke a lot. Malcolm X, one of the most famous quotes from him is that the white liberal is a sheep in wolf's clothing. But when you deal with the Republicans, you get what you see. You get what you see. And that's the one thing that I guess a lot of people don't understand, is America's just fucked up. Let's be honest. America could be so much better, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? And I've continually have tried to make the conditions for people who have been left behind for a very long time, for generations. I've tried to put us number one, but it's always these people, the status quo. Because even what I'm about to talk about right now, people oh, you haven't done nothing, you haven't done this. I've tried to do a lot. It's the problem of elected officials and the status quo that keep us at the bottom. And I'm not just talking about black people, I'm talking about poor. Because we've been left behind. Finding place to live in Red Wing is tough.
for low income renters. I worked with Tammy. And Tammy is a wonderful woman. She lives in Lake City now. I got to know her. And so in that first apartment right there that she's in front of, that was Jennifer's. When I first got into this, like with George Floyd, we did all that, like Walk for Humanity and all these other protests and Red Wing. Jennifer first, this is where she stayed, was in the bottom. And then you had some other people upstairs. And then so Tammy was in the bottom. And to be honest, the way that people were like leaving the landlords, this is a part of the reason of why I helped author the rental license program in Red Wing, even though it's still fucked up. It's still fucked up. Because even though Robert Engen wants to say, that little ordinance but it gave the tenant rights. It gave the tenants more rights and more protections than what they didn't have for a very long time. That's why that landlord was charged and facing criminal charges, because the things that he was doing and that he did is criminal. It's criminal. And I'm glad to see that one of the things that Red Wing Council is standing on is the rights and the protections for renters when it comes to these slumlords. And there's a lot of them. But listen to Teresa Tanneman's story a little bit and look at the things that we were facing, or even other people are facing, that were in Red Wing, that are in Red Wing.
Teresa Tamanen wants a safe place to live in Red Wing. She told the city council on January 10th that her rental home on East 4th Street does not meet that criteria. It is not safe. Tamanen's comments came during the public comments section of the council meeting. The comments came after a report by consultant Ali Nimi on the city's plan to address housing instability and homelessness.
Sponsor message, then we're back.
It's summer and wow, is it hot outside. If your AC is acting up, don't get stuck paying for repairs or replacements you're unsure about. Call K&S Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electrical for a free second opinion on repairs and replacement estimates. And when your system breaks down after hours, don't sweat it. K&S has no after hours fees. 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 8 days a week. You heard me right. The same great rate from 8 to 8. Call K&S today or schedule online at ksheating.com. That's ksheating.com.
While Nimi's report was filled with statistics, Tamanen's comments offered stark details of the housing issue in the city, in particular affordable housing. There was a fire in another apartment last fall, Tamanen told the council. The outlets don't work in my house, so obviously there's an electrical problem. I wonder if I'm going to have a fire or not. A city inspector visited the house in November and confirmed there are problems, finding 12 areas that needed to be fixed by the owner of Tamanen's home, Crimson Turtle Properties. Dan Simonson, the city's building and zoning inspector, sent a letter to Crimson Turtle Properties on December 17th. In part it stated, on November 24th, I sent you a letter with some life safety concerns with your rental property at 710 West 4th Street in Red Wing. I received no response. The city building official, Frank Peterson, met with your property manager on December 14th to check the items, and none of the issues had been corrected. The 12 items on the list include: hire a licensed electrician to verify that all 3 meters are separated to each apartment. According to Tamanen, her unit does not have its own electrical box. When work was being done on the 2 other units in the building, most of her electricity was turned off. She only had electricity in the back bedrooms. Hire a licensed electrician to fix the life safety issues in the basement and apartments, such as light fixtures hanging by wires, missing outlet covers, and an exposed 220 wire in the basement. Hire a licensed plumber to verify repair work in the open kitchen ceiling no longer leaks. Also install sheetrock in the kitchen to cover exposed pipes. Red Wing resident Chaz Neal previously has spoken to the city council on numerous topics, including housing issues. He stood at Tamanen's side as she spoke to the council January 10th. Tamanen contacted Neal for help after her landlord did not fix the 12 items listed by the city's inspector. I really want the city to know, and even the readers to know, that of all the properties that they're probably going to go in, this is probably one of the nicer ones because of Teresa, Neal said. Tamanen told the city council that she tries to make her home look nice, but she doesn't have the money to make all of the repairs that would be needed to make it a safe place to live. According to the city, no permits have been issued on the property since it was purchased by Crimson Turtle. But, Simonson writes in his letter, I documented the new plumbing and electrical work you had completed. The Republican Eagle tried to contact Crimson Turtle by phone but was unsuccessful. The company does not currently have a public office. A rental license program began in January with the goal of ensuring homes are safe. The previous program was in place more than a decade ago. Council President Becky Norton noted when the program was discussed in August, the previous inspection program was 10 years ago, the last time that homes were inspected, so all of the homes are well due at this point. Previously, tenants could call the city to have their unit inspected, but that sometimes resulted in retaliation from their landlord. The goal of this program is to ensure that Red Wing housing is safe while taking the burden of requesting inspections off of the tenants. Tamanan and her landlord came to an agreement that Tamanan would leave the property by March 31st. Now Tamanan is struggling to find a home that meets her requirements. Tamanan needs a home with at least 3 bedrooms because her son currently lives with her and she cares for her father, who has dementia. Despite Tamanan's salary from a part-time job and pay from providing child care, along with her father's social security, she said it's hard to find a place that they can afford. Tamanan's current rent is $1,350 a month. Neil sat with Tamanan at her kitchen table recently to talk about her housing challenges. You have landlords that are asking first, month, last, and security deposits now, Neil said. The people that are looking for housing, that are renters, aren't making that type of money. At the January 10th council meeting, Neil and Tamanan asked for city funds to help Tamanan find a new home. When the rental license program was put into place, the council set aside $10,000 for costs of potentially housing a person or family short-term if they have to be immediately removed from their rental unit due to an emergency health and safety issue. Tamanan did not receive any financial aid from the city. On Tuesday, January 18th, a city staff member told the Republican Eagle that for Tamanan the improvements were important but they were not life-threatening, so she did not have to utilize city funds or move out of her place immediately. This source noted the city did make sure to contact the landlord so the work would get done, and the city's building inspector will revisit her place to make sure the work was done properly. Tamanan told a reporter on Tuesday that someone from Crimson Turtle was working on her heating. This was on the list of items that the city flagged as needing to be fixed by the landlord but not one of Tamanan's priorities. Sitting in Tamanan's kitchen, listening to her granddaughter babble as she fell asleep in the living room, Neil said his appearance at the January 10th meeting with Tamanan isn't just to make city council look bad. It's that there really is an issue when it comes to housing. The city has been working to find ways to address housing in Red Wing. Ali Nimi with North Star Policy Consulting was hired in September to use information gathered in a housing study from last year to create an action plan for the city. Nimi and Red Wing community members worked to create the plan to increase housing stability and reduce homelessness. The plan includes 8 priority strategies for 2022. Each strategy includes action steps, partners, and resources. The strategies are: commit to developing 15 new permanent supportive housing units in Red Wing. In collaboration with community partners, work toward Goodhue County's goal of adding 50 to 69 market rate apartments, 24 to 32 market rate townhomes, and 24 to 30 units with a shallow subsidy by 2030. Maintain a real-time, by-name list of people experiencing homelessness in Red Wing modeled after the Built for Zero initiative. Identify a single point of contact for housing advocacy for each household on the list. Increase funding for homeless prevention payments and services. Establish a tenant/landlord connection program. Develop a formal long-term motel leasing program to meet the emergency shelter needs of individuals and families in Red Wing. Create a one-stop show opportunity center to serve people experiencing homelessness and the broader community. Develop a host homes model for youth experiencing homelessness in Red Wing. Address NIMBY, not in my backyard, through community education and engagement. All of the above steps are needed, but the plan stresses, the single most important thing that can be done to prevent and end homelessness in Red Wing is to ensure adequate, safe, and accessible, affordable housing at all income levels. Housing costs are rising faster than income and earnings. We need to work on both sides of this equation, adjusting both housing and economic policies. The recent study of homelessness found that in Goodhue County, the inventory of rental properties was 2.5% vacant, including a 1.4% vacancy rate among the affordable and subsidized properties and a 3.6% vacancy rate in the market rate properties. Meanwhile, equilibrium vacancy rates for rental housing would be 5%. In short, to end homelessness in the city and ensure that all residents have safe places to live, Red Wing needs more housing. Tamanan's search for a new home highlights that issue. Sitting in her kitchen, Tamanan reflected on the difficulties of that search. We started looking, there just isn't a whole lot.
So yeah, that was another thing, that was going on in that, like the history of Red Wing, and one of the things that it's been housing that they didn't really care about. Next, I want to sit here and show you my criminal record a little bit, right? It's not even a little bit, the whole thing, to be honest. That's what I want people to see. And what you're seeing right now is Minnesota court records. And I've been told already from Ashley not to do this. I've been told from other people not to do this because I do end up doing this like once or twice a year, right? And I have nothing to hide. And they get it. Like Ashley said this morning, I get it. You know what I'm saying? But if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't have to defend your name. I'm defending my name because I talk about it. Nobody's gonna expose Chaz because I've already exposed it. So this first one, this is my son's name change, which I ended up agreeing to. Second one, they said I was spitting. I spit on Brooklyn Center police officers. I did my probation, did my little time. Didn't even take a plea bargain. I just went up there and pled guilty, dealt with the judge, and that was the end of it. So it really wasn't no big deal. Got out probation December last year. No sweat off me. I mean, it's just another thing. Here, I don't think this was in Red Wing. Yeah, driving, driver's license, driving under suspension. But a lot of these, so this is the one they did get me on, but I had a whole lot more that they never even anywhere got me on. So this one, 11, this was in Red Wing, and I had, so I got a mixture of like Kool-Aid, corn syrup, like and spoiled bread, and threw it all over like the Red Wing Police Department, and the City Hall, right? So I got I got a disorderly because because one of the workers had said something or whatever, and so I cussed them out. So I got that, and then also I got damage to property. It's closed. You see that? So that's that one. Let's see. Winona, that's my paternity. That's all the way back in 2018, and that was for my daughter and my son, Chaz and Rosley. So this was failure to register. This is my last one that I've had. That was in Preston, or not actually Preston, Spring Valley. So I got that. But at that same time, I was looking at life, fighting a case out in South Dakota during the same time. But I ended up getting the South Dakota thing dropped, and boom, bam, wham, and here I am again. This, St. Paul, I got pulled over going, I didn't know where I was at, got lost. Man, so I was going 46 and a 30. Got a ticket. This is custody of my kids, Chaz and Rosley. So that's that. Another failure to register. Went to prison for that one. Got out, I believe, in 2012. Here goes. They got me in Austin. I did this one about the time that I got sober. Really started to just leave like alcohol and like other things alone. I was going through a lot, but that was in Austin. Got divorced from Leah, 2006. This one is failure to register. That's again. That was in Rochester. Or wait, was it? No, that was in Wabasha. That shit was crazy. I had like 2 back to back. Yeah. And that was crazy. This one in May, in which I admitted to it. That's why I'm like, I didn't really get it. I didn't understand it. So during that time, I was still married to Leah, and she had ran off, whatever. And so I went to go stay with Sabrina and Jasmine, my youngest 2 kids at the time, and I got in trouble. I didn't understand it. I couldn't take them back to where I was staying because there was other, sex offenders there or whatever. So that was my bad. I took it on the chin. And it is what it is. So that was my first one. Robbery, which wasn't a robbery. Ended up getting a conspiracy for it. This one is this was on. So at the time, me and Leah were still married. Before Minnesota had that strangulation law. So that's what you see here. But there's more to the story. And I really don't want to put Leah's business out here, so I won't. This child support, I believe that one was child support maybe it was paternity. I don't know what it was about, but I feel like that was around the time because Jasmine was born April of that year in 2004. So 2003, civilly committed for mentally ill. Then we go all the way to 1998, financial card fraud, and they dismissed the solicitation of the juvenile because there was a whole lot more that went into this than what the police wanted to admit. I was at work, wasn't even at the house that day when it happened. So then they ended up dropping the charge on that one. Here goes my sex crime all the way back into, I forgot when I pled guilty. I guess it probably was around that time or whatever. Because the offense date was, that's the offense. So 1997, but that was me having a sexual relationship. I was a senior in high school and she was a freshman. I've admitted to it, done my time. So that's what people like to bring up. This was the same thing as above, which, again, another stupid mistake. I've lived up to it. I don't dodge from it or run from it. Here goes, I don't even know what this one was for. I believe that one was when we got caught at the Mayo Underground parking. Because I know the next one was offering for its check. Because I used to pop checks like a motherfucker. Nobody wanted to. They didn't have that like they do now of like the check sign and all that shit. You could literally go to the store, and I have done this numerous times, like the Mall of America, Foot Locker, that was down in the Miracle Mile. Like we used to go in there and pop checks. But hey, sometimes you get caught. That was I think that was at TJ Maxx. It was me. I believe somebody else was with me as well. I took the whole blame for it though. So again, mentally ill. I don't even know what this one was. To be honest, I don't know what the hell that. I don't remember it. I just know that it was some kind of like restitution shit. So it was 1996. Disorderly conduct. This one goes back all the way to 1996. Theft. I think that was a motor vehicle. You have theft, property damage, tampering with a motor vehicle. So that was 1995. All the way back to October. Wait, November. Maybe that was I think it was October 10. So that goes all the way back to there. And that is my criminal history. It ain't nothing to be ashamed of. It ain't nothing to run from because I'm not that person anymore. And I have not been that person for a very long time. And this is one of the things too in Brooklyn Center that I attempted, that I was a part of, was a petition to bring the strong mayor to Brooklyn Center. So I want people to listen to this. It's about 2 minutes long. You'll see me at which they say there's not many. We don't ever really get people to come to our meetings, but you have people here now. Yeah, we were there because we wanted to change Brooklyn Center. We wanted to make a difference. And it was crazy to me of like how Democrats were like against this. This is the like April Graves and all, because you know the crazy thing of it, and like nobody would really. We had a crew, you know, it was Joe. Secretly, you know, Mike Elliott was involved in this, and there was other people that were residents and a few business owners in Brooklyn Center. And it was crazy to see that like a lot of the black people did not want to get behind this. They wanted change in Brooklyn Center, but if you wanted change instead they got the regular shit. So now they're going through that all again. And it hurts me is because they had an opportunity. They had an opportunity. And a thing also that I noticed during this process is that a lot of black people, and especially when it came to like progressive or whatever, they didn't know a lot about city charters, because a city charter is what makes the city run. And damn near the only cities that don't have it, well, I shouldn't say that, because they all have it, right? We all have a city charter, and that's how your city is ran, no matter if it comes to the council, no matter if it comes to your police department. It tells you how your city is going to run, and that's what they go by. So when you see the city of Minneapolis had changed to a strong mayor process and executive government or whatever, where the mayor was basically holds all the power. And that's what I tried to do in Brooklyn Center. And it was crazy to me how you have these people who wanted to defund the police, but they did not want to get behind a black man, a straight black man. And that's what really fucked me up, because that's when I knew that they didn't care about none of that. The Democrats, even the black ones, they didn't care. So when they started seeing this thing of the council changing and them getting rid of like the Kobe Heisler and Dante Wright commission and all that shit, I was like, this is the problem. Y'all got a hard ass head, so y'all gonna have a soft ass. And that's what happened, because they have not learned. So a hard head makes for a soft ass. But here goes back to 2022. And we were trying to push this petition for strong mayor in Brooklyn Center.
A proposal to change the structure of Brooklyn Center's city government and give the mayor more power is now in the hands of the city council, at least for now. As Delane Cleveland explains, the city's charter commission voted to move the proposal along to the city council this week after a citizens group got the courts involved.
We'll start with a roll call.
Tuesday night at Brooklyn Center City Hall.
This seems kind of irregular.
Something that doesn't usually happen at a charter commission meeting. A full house.
Usually our meetings have nobody attending except for us.
At issue is a petition signed by more than 1,100 Brooklyn Center residents aimed at changing the city's power structure and creating a strong mayor system.
This petition process is new for all of us. I don't think anybody here has been through the process of a petition.
Earlier this month, the commission met to talk about that petition. The people who signed it want to put the mayor in charge of the city versus the city manager. It's similar to how Minneapolis runs its city government.
Our job for a citizen's petition is to pass it on to the city council in one of three ways: either approving it to be submitted as a ordinance, or as a something to go on the ballot, or with no recommendation at all. That is our only job.
However, at its last meeting, the Charter Commission opted not to send the petition onto the city council. That decision prompted a group called Citizens for a Full-Time Mayor to file a lawsuit mandating the commission to send it to the city council. A court hearing on the matter was originally scheduled for Wednesday afternoon.
Commissioner Druzek.
Aye. But at Tuesday night's meeting, the Charter Commission decided to send the petition to the city council after all, although some had reservations.
You know, and that's what I want to tell people, right, is that I learned a lot during this process, because it showed me that when your city does the wrong thing and you know better, like, because they were bucking against us for something that was already that you could do in their city charter, and they were trying to go against it. That's why the the committee started to sue them. And the lawyer for that actually was the lawyer for CUAPB. And he was Paul Bossman. He was the one in front of that. So, or maybe it was even Jordan Kushner or whatever. But I just want people to see him, like, even though we wanted freedom to have black people in charge, them niggas were against it. And that's what really to this day really fucks me up, to see people like Matt Branch or like even fucking April Graves or even I think her name is Tanya or something. And it's crazy because those are the people that were pushing back against this petition. So when people tell you they want change, don't fucking believe them, because I can tell you right now, a lot of the people in the DFL are dirty fucking liars.
It at least begs the question that we should be looking at this again, not rubber stamping it. I think that there's a huge public policy issue here that could come into conflict with this proposed charter amendment.
Now, the issue will be up to the city council and very likely the voters of Brooklyn Center. In Brooklyn Center, Delane Cleveland, CCX News.
Yeah. So I want to show people, like, there is people out here that actually want to do right, but the system is not allowing them to. They don't want actual really change. And that's the scary part, is because they get up here and talk about it and say, oh, we want to make a difference. We want to do this. We want to do that. Yeah, no, they don't. That shit is all fucking hot air. Because I can tell you like this, at the end of the day, they don't. And that's really, to come down to it, that's really sad as hell that we have politicians that talk shit every 4 years, but nothing ever changes. Even this next thing that I want to talk about, right? And again, I've talked about fraud with multiple other people. I brought a presentation that Robert did to the Republicans, and we literally talked about fraud. And I never really brought up no Somalians because I didn't even really know about that, like, in depth of that community. What I talked about was my Black community, the nonprofits, the churches, and was trying to show people, like, hey, we literally have a problem that nobody wants to solve or even touch because they don't want to do right. They don't want to do right. And I'll just leave it at that. Is even when I see some of these Republicans talking about the fraud, it's like, I'm not trying to bust them out or I am trying to call them out or whatever, but y'all knew about the fraud as well. Y'all knew about the fraud. And a lot of them just stood by and let it happen. A lot of them went to the same places over north that were being fraudulent. Shiloh Temple, Jerry McAfee, Lisa Clemens, the same fraudulent last people. So to me, a lot of the Republicans didn't even want change because they go to the same talking pieces for the Democrats. The same. So I just don't understand it. I don't know why Black people are so afraid of change. But we are, and that's really, 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 like, fucked up. It's, yeah, I don't understand it. So, like I said, here goes Liz Collins on her Alpha News podcast with Representative Robbins.
Lines for months, but as the fraud crisis in Minnesota continues to unravel, the Walz administration doesn't seem to have many answers. That's why we'll be asking Representative Kristen Robbins your questions next. Representative Kristen Robbins, the chair of the Minnesota House Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee and representative for Maple Grove and parts of Hennepin County, is my guest on the podcast. Representative Robbins, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Liz.
You know, you chaired the Fraud Committee during the last legislative session here in Minnesota. And while a lot happened during those weekly sessions, some might say there's a lot that did not happen. But before we get into some of the questions that the Alpha News readers and viewers want to ask you, just want to start with a brief status check here. We've heard the number for months. Prosecutors have estimated that it's $9 billion of public funds that have been lost to fraud since 2018 in Minnesota. What can you, though, tell us about that number and where things stand from your perspective at this point?
Yes, the $9 billion came from former acting U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson, who was the lead prosecutor on many of these cases. He was fantastic. And when we got the list of the 14 high-risk programs, he said over the last 5 years that totaled about $18 billion, and he expected half of that was fraud. So that's where the $9 billion comes from. So I think that's a conservative estimate because that's just in the high-risk programs in Medicaid. That doesn't count CCAP. That doesn't count Feeding Our Future. So my guess is it's much higher. The estimate back in 2018 on the childcare or the CCAP fraud was $100 million a year. So if you extrapolate that, forward 8 years where we are, $800 million just in the CCAP fraud. And SNAP, we just this week found out our SNAP error rate is the highest in our region, 12.8 something percent, a 40% increase just over last year. And that's not all fraud, but it's certainly waste. So I definitely think $9 billion is a conservative number, but it's a good starting place.
Wow. Hard to even wrap your head around numbers that high. Unfortunately, though, it does seem that there are a lot more questions than answers these days. That's speaking from experience. But when Alpha News reached out for questions about fraud, we received literally thousands of responses, a lot of people asking a lot of questions still to this day. But just taking a look at the list that we received, accountability by far is the top of the list that people still have questions about. People want to know who's going to jail, what's taking so long to convict Governor Walz, Representative Ilhan Omar, and Attorney General Ellison. Those three always seem to be at the top of the list. I know there's a lot of speculation here, but is accountability something that people should expect?
Absolutely. And Minnesotans deserve accountability and they should expect it. I get this question a lot too. And I always try to remind people as a legislator, we cannot arrest people. People want to know why I haven't arrested Tim Walz. And our role is to expose the fraud and to pass bills that strengthen internal controls. And then when we find credible allegations of fraud, we turn it over to our partners in law enforcement at the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, but they are the ones who prosecute these cases. And it takes a long time. And I'm frustrated like everyone else, but it takes a long time to build a case. And I also know the House Oversight Committee in D.C., the House Ethics Committee is looking at Representative Omar. So, the wheels of justice are turning, but as conservatives, we follow the rule of law and we need to be patient and let that system do its work.
Another question people want to ask is, why is it that it seems like the mainstream media and Democrats don't seem to care about fraud or the consequences, aside obviously from the politics of such a question? Why is it that the concern isn't there for some when it seems to become so obvious? It seems as they say almost as if Republicans have made this up.
I know, it's shocking, honestly. Tim Walz said this spring that it was make-believe. Like in the face of hundreds of indictments and real convictions and OLA reports and whistleblower reports, he said it's make-believe.
It was all make-believe that we've been at it. Every state had this. And look, I do think there has to be accountability in this. No one in state government was implicated. This happened.
So I cannot speculate on why they are not as engaged with us on stopping the fraud as they should be. Because fraud, honestly, I don't think it's a partisan issue. Minnesotans want their tax money to go what it's intended for. And where there's fraud, they want criminals held accountable. And we should all want that. So when I'm out talking to Minnesotans around the state, they share that view. I could be talking to Democrats, Republicans. They all want accountability. And so I think Democrats have been reluctant to join us because it protects their political base. Right. And they don't want to be, and that's the root of the fraud. That's the story from the beginning. People were afraid if they spoke up, they'd be called racist, Islamophobic, right, or it would hurt their political base. And so they either retaliated against whistleblowers or they turned a blind eye. And that's how we got to this enormous amount of fraud. So we cannot be afraid to speak the truth. We just have to say it out loud. And I say it all the time. Yes, most of the fraud is in the Somali community, but some of my best whistleblowers are in the Somali community. Like, we have to not be afraid to speak the truth on a host of issues.
I know there are also a lot of questions about investigations and just how all of this came to light. The largest COVID fraud scheme, as you mentioned, the $250 million fraud with Feeding Our Future. Then you have Nick Shirley's video with David Hoke that went viral on social media. That was last December. And then Hoke testified before the fraud committee that you chaired in May. And I think his testimony raised even more concerns. But I think that's a question. Was there kind of a light bulb moment for you over the years, Representative Robbins, when you just realized how massive this was? This wasn't just a few isolated cases.
When we started the committee 2 years ago, I really thought probably it was turning a blind eye, failure of internal controls, kind of people not doing their program management duties. And as the months of hearings progressed, I began to see, no, this was intentional, willful malfeasance. People at DHS retaliated against whistleblowers. They closed down the criminal investigation unit on the childcare fraud. And when they should have been doubling down on it, I mean, there are so many examples of where they could have done more. They've, as the House Oversight Committee said in the report a couple weeks ago, they've always had the ability to stop payment. They've always had the ability to designate these programs as high risk. So in the face of all the whistleblower reports, actual convictions, the OLE reports, they continued to keep shoveling money out the door and not take the actions they had the authority to take. So I can't remember when exactly I realized it was much larger than a failure of internal controls, but it was probably after the third or fourth hearing when you keep hearing the same things from the bureaucrats and you know that they're not taking this seriously. And it's a culture problem. It is absolutely a failure of culture to have accountability for employees and for these programs. And we have to change the culture that, as Tim O'Malley said, they prioritize compassion over compliance, like 70-30. Like, that's not what Minnesotans want.
Yeah, there have been fraud-related raids and charges since Nick Shirley's video went viral, but people are still asking if there will be more. I know you were recently in Washington, D.C., and you called the fraud in Minnesota a, quote, wake-up call to the nation. So what should people expect in the coming months? How long is this going to take to kind of fix this for good in the future?
I ask people to be patient because this has been building at least in Minnesota since 2014, maybe earlier, and it's going to take a long time to unwind the fraud. But it absolutely, we are the roadmap for the rest of the country. What we saw in Minnesota, it started in the childcare fraud, and because there was no accountability and they closed down the criminal investigation, which took away the deterrent, that led to Feeding Our Future. People involved in the childcare fraud were the Feeding Our Future defendants. And then they realized, okay, there's all these Medicaid programs that are the waivered services. So people think of Medicaid, help for the elderly, help for people of low income in traditional Medicare medical services. But Minnesota expanded into all these Medicaid waivered services. And so the fraudsters saw that model and they expanded into all the waivered services programs, sober homes, autism centers, integrated community supports, housing stabilization, all those vectors of fraud. And it became a business model. And so that's what I encourage other states to look at. But to clean out the fraud, it's going to take years. And so we have to stay focused. We have to hold their feet to the fire, and we have to be patient because redoing billions of dollars in these waivered services program is going to take some time.
We've also received a lot of questions about and from whistleblowers themselves. I know you know them well. There's a group of 1,000 state employees behind an account on X. They've posted on social media about how there are no protections offered to whistleblowers and that no state official has been held accountable for fraud. And they went on to say that there is no other solution to tackling fraud in Minnesota without a flush of the toilet of Tim Walz's administrators. Those were their words, but I know you've heard a lot yourself from whistleblowers. What can you tell us, though, about how the Walz administration has handled those who have had the courage to speak up about fraud?
It's been shameful. So people who raised their hand and said they saw problems in these programs were retaliated against, investigated, and it's just shameful. And what we did in the 2025 legislature is we expanded whistleblower protection. So now that there are new places where they can report, that's when we started seeing these whistleblower reports come out of the woodwork. And that's really helped us identify all these other vectors of fraud. But to be clear, I mean, we have to absolutely clean house in the Walz administration, get rid of all these commissioners, all these deputy commissioners, all these political appointees, which is why I ran for governor. I mean, we need a culture change, and it starts with new leadership, and it starts with cleaning house in all these agencies, because until we change the political appointees, we are not going to, I've heard whistleblowers tell me they're planning just to wait you out. They're counting on, the fraud committee going away, and they're just going to go back to business as usual. So we cannot let that happen. We have got to make sure that we have accountability in the executive branch. And that's why we passed the Office of Inspector General bill, because it creates an independent law enforcement body in the executive branch that will have ability to do these investigations, to subpoena documents, to get warrants. That's what we need in the executive branch, to have accountability no matter who's in power.
Here's to how do people feel about that? I mean, I don't know. They always tell people to be patient, but to me, that's crazy, because especially when you have seen the fraud, the lengths that it has gone to, and they want us to be patient. Like, to me, it's kind of crazy. We've already been patient for the last, decade. It goes back to like Phil Parrish, when he was calling out the daycare frauds, you know what I'm saying? And we still haven't learned. We haven't even learned from, people taking millions out of the airport across to other countries to fuel. I don't know what it is, that's what's crazy, because like even hearing yesterday, I'm going to play it in a minute, as soon as I'm done with this, is about that MK Ultra. And I know people be like, oh, that's always been a conspiracy theory. And you just had people go up to Congress and tell you that they believe that this shit is like them experiments and all that is still going on, and people yet they still don't want to believe this shit.
Said for fighting the good fight, and then there's a lot to be said about trying to fight against a broken system. You served in the Minnesota House since 2019. However, in May, you made it official that you're retiring and no longer running in the race for governor. But in your announcement, you shared an important message. You wrote that it has become apparent that the establishment, political class, media, and donors have anointed Amy Klobuchar, despite her refusal to engage meaningfully on the issues that matter most to Minnesotans. Our state government and political system are broken, and after fighting for Minnesotans from the inside for the past 8 years, I have determined that the best way for me to fight for the future of our state is from the outside. So it sounds like you are still in the fight, but can you tell us anything more about your future plans, and if fighting fraud is something more of us, need to get involved with here?
Everyone needs to vote. People who sit at home are just will get more of the same. So we have to engage with the public to make sure they're holding people accountable. But I don't really have any plans. I'm still the representative till December, and I will start thinking about it. But I do want to stay engaged in that fight against fraud. I think I've learned so much that I want to be able to be helpful to other states and to our state as a resource, and to point people in the right direction of how to take this on. I think we've done an incredible job on the fraud committee exposing all this fraud.
I think, I'm going to say this again, because they say they exposed, but we saw no type of accountability. And you can see from the 2025 power sharing agreement that their fraud and waste committee, they made sure that they didn't have any subpoena power. And that's why I feel like we never really did get real accountability, or even really like real questions, real honesty, is because they didn't have subpoena power. People could go up there and lie. They can do, you know what I'm saying? So they didn't have a reason to go up there and tell the truth, because then what people don't understand is that they're not going to bite the hand that keeps feeding them. So I want to go into what I said about MK Ultra, and all the experiments that they were doing back in the 60s and 70s, and how they still believe that they're doing them today.
Opinion that Jack Ruby and Manson were assets of the intelligence agencies, specifically pertaining to MKUltra. Were they MKUltra victims?
Yeah, theoretically, Manson, I've never been able to prove absolutely. Jack Ruby, I believe, this is something else. The Warren Commission investigation, on the Warren Commission was Alan Dulles, the former CIA director, who authorized and ran MKUltra until he was fired by President Kennedy. The liaison to the committee for the CIA, who handled the information coming from the CIA back and forth to the Warren Commission, was Richard Helms, who was a direct supervisor of Jolly West. They knew who West was. They knew that what West was capable of and what they had paid him to do and what he had reported to them that he could do, including inducing mental disorders in people. That was never disclosed to the commission as far as anyone knows. So I believe that West was put in there to keep Jack Ruby from telling his story. Thank you, Chairwoman Luna and members of the committee. It's a privilege to be here today. Almost 50 years ago, the last congressional hearings into MKUltra took place just a short walk from here in the Dirksen Senate Office Building. At those hearings, convened in August and September of 1977, representatives of the CIA told Congress and the American people that its 25-year effort to control human behavior had been a colossal failure. Because I believe Congress was never told the truth about what this program actually achieved. In fact, I believe the agency misled Congress in 1977 when it characterized MKUltra as a failure. My name is Tom O'Neill, and in 1999, I accepted a magazine assignment to write a story about murders committed by a group of hippies called the Manson family. For those unfamiliar with this horrific episode of American history, in the summer of 1969, 4 young people acting on the orders of a cult leader named Charles Manson went to the home of movie director Roman Polanski and murdered everyone they found there, including his 8.5-month pregnant wife, the actress Sharon Tate. The victims were complete strangers to their killers. The following night, Manson's followers murdered another couple in the same grisly fashion. At the time I accepted the assignment, I'd never heard of MKUltra, and I wouldn't for another 2 years after I'd missed countless deadlines, lost the assignment, and fallen down a nightmarish rabbit hole trying to answer the question I couldn't quite shake. How had Manson, a barely literate ex-con, acquired the ability to persuade ordinary young people to murder complete strangers simply because he had told them to? The pursuit of the answer to that question led me to Dr. Louis Jolyon West, known to his friends as Jolly. West was one of the most influential psychiatrists in America. During his career, he crossed paths with some of the most controversial events of the 20th century, including the Patty Hearst kidnapping case and the aftermath of the John F. Kennedy assassination investigation. In 1977, West was one of 7 academic researchers named in a front-page New York Times story alleging that the CIA had used American universities, hospitals, and prisons as secret laboratories for experiments involving LSD and other drugs on unwitting human subjects. West vigorously denied the allegations. He acknowledged that the agency had approached him, but insisted he had refused because he said LSD was too dangerous and unpredictable to be used on humans. He added that he limited all of his research with LSD to animals. The revelations in the Times led directly to the congressional hearings held later that year. West's denials, however, were effective. He was never investigated, and his name never came up at the hearings. I'll spare you the long and tedious story of how my Manson reporting led me to West, except to say that I eventually learned that in 1967, when Manson transformed into the cult leader we are familiar with today, he and his followers were receiving free medical care at a clinic in San Francisco, where West had established a base of operations for a research project he was conducting nearby. After becoming intrigued by the allegations against West, I learned that UCLA, his last academic home, had inherited his paper following his death in 1999. Nearly 2 months and more than 200 boxes later, I found the proverbial needle in a haystack, correspondence between West and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, the architect of MKUltra. The letters begin in 1953, just 2 months after CIA Director Allen Dulles authorized the program, and while West was stationed at the Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, where he was chief psychiatrist at the base hospital. In his first letter to Gottlieb, West proposed conducting experiments on unwitting human subjects, including military personnel, prisoners, and psychiatric patients at the base hospital. He then outlined the experiments themselves in 6 more pages that could have been written by Joseph Mengele. Using LSD in combination with hypnosis, West proposed inducing confusion, amnesia, and specific mental disorders in people who would remember nothing of their interaction with him afterward. He sought to develop techniques to extract true information and implant false information in unwilling subjects and to alter the attitudes and beliefs of, quote, previously loyal individuals. In other words, to completely switch their allegiance from one group or leader to another. But it was another sentence at the end of that letter that stopped me cold. These experiments, he wrote, must eventually be put to test in practical trials in the field. Gottlieb's response could hardly have been more enthusiastic. My good friend, he wrote, I had been wondering whether your apparent rapid and comprehensive grasp of our problems could possibly be real. You have indeed developed an admirably accurate picture of exactly what we are after. West replied that there was no more vital undertaking conceivable in these times. There was another document in West's papers that had even more significant implications. It was a 14-page report that West wrote in 1956, just 3 years after he contracted with the CIA. In the report, West described administering LSD and other drugs in conjunction with hypnosis on unwitting human subjects, and then he made a remarkable claim. He announced that he had learned how to replace true memories with false memories in people without their knowledge. In other words, he clarified, it has been found to be feasible to take the memory of a definite event in the life of an individual and, through hypnotic suggestion, bring about the subsequent conscious recall to the effect that this event never actually took place, but that a different fictional event actually did occur. If West's report was accurate, this was not the failure agency officials described in 1977, quite the opposite. It was, in fact, the central ambition of the MKUltra op, the means of seizing all of a person's perceptions, memories, and ultimately their behavior. There was still more discovery, and this time I found in the National Security Archives at George Washington University, the official repository of the CIA's MKUltra records, which were released to Congress after the 1977 hearings. In those holdings was a different versions of West's 1956 report. The original paper had been replaced by a 4-page summary that did not exist in West's files and appears to have been written by someone else. His claims about replacing memories were gone. In their place was a theoretical discussion of LSD in dissociative states. The versions applied to Congress concluded that the effects of LSD and similar drugs on dissociative states had, and I'm quoting, never been studied. Never been studied. In the original report, West discusses observations from his own experiments, including detailed descriptions of using LSD to, as he wrote, speed the induction of the hypnotic state and deepen the trance in subjects. Those passages have been removed in the report turned over to Congress. The discrepancy could not have been more stark. Nearly 50 years ago, another congressional committee believed it had been given the truth about MKUltra. It had not. In conclusion, I respectfully submit that these records, some newly available and others that remained outside the government's disclosure for decades, warrant a thorough re-examination of what the program accomplished, what Congress was told, and what may still remain hidden. I'm happy to provide the documents I've referenced today, and I've provided many additional details in my written testimony.
Just before we wrap up, is it in your expert opinion that Jack Ruby and Manson were assets of the intelligence agencies specifically pertaining to MKUltra? Were they MKUltra victims?
Yeah, theoretically, Manson, I've never been able to prove absolutely. Jack Ruby, I believe, this is something else. The Warren Commission investigation, on the Warren Commission was Alan Dulles, the former CIA director, who authorized and ran MKUltra until he was fired by President Kennedy. The liaison to the committee for the CIA, who handled the information coming from the CIA back and forth to the Warren Commission, was Richard Helms, who was a direct supervisor of Jolly West. They knew who West was. They knew that what West was capable of and what they had paid him to do and what he had reported to them that he could do, including inducing mental disorders in people. That was never disclosed to the commission as far as anyone knows. So I believe that West was put in there to keep Jack Ruby from telling his story.
Wow. In closing, I just want to thank you all for being here today, and we will be following up, Dr. Kinzer, on your request to fully redact. I'll be following up personally with the director of the CIA, the MKUltra files that we do have. Also, as I noted earlier, there will be more that will be declassified, specifically pertaining to newly found records that were located in what we were discussing earlier. I did also want to just state that, for the record, in regards to what statements were made earlier regarding the German government, we will also be following up on that. If there are indeed people that were victims of this that have been buried, we would like to know who those people are and who their families are as well, in order to correct the history.
That shit crazy. The fact that that was still going on in experiments, it still goes on today, they believe. That's crazy, and that we don't even understand it, or we don't even want the truth. It even makes it 10 times worse. It really does. I wanted to show a little bit about Dr. Claude Anderson, and the part that I'm bringing up is capitalism and immigration and how it hurt Black Americans, and are we different from other race groups?
Capitalism. Now, when racism started in the 1500s, and they started practicing racism, guess what happened? Capitalism started. Up to that time, the whole way of making money was mercantilism. And all of a sudden, they started getting these slaves who can generate all this wealth. By wealth, they figured they paid typically about $40 at most for a slave in this country. And I'm sorry, no, they paid about $25 for a slave off the coast of Africa. They spent about $40 to work him for a whole year. That's the maximum amount of money was spent on a slave. That's for his welfare. But they expect that slave to bring in about a 1,500% return for owning him. And so they're going to work him to death. And so they started things saying, so capitalism started. Now, what is capitalism? That started about 1509, probably about 7 or 8 years after commercialized slavery started in Europe. Capitalism started. That's what you're operating under right now, is capitalism. Now, what is capitalism? Capitalism means own and control the land, the tools, the resources, and use other people's labor to enrich yourselves. Now, if you all didn't hear it, let me repeat it again. Capitalism means own and control the land, the tools, and the resources, and use other people's labor to enrich yourself. That is capitalism. W.B. Du Bois defined capitalism a little different, but pretty close to the same thing in 1915. W.B. Du Bois says that capitalism is like having 3 to 4 ears of corn. You eat, you save, you sell, and use the other seeds for next year's planting. That is capitalism. Now, how many blacks you know that's eating, saving, and selling and planting? Did any of you in this auditorium now hear me say anything about that capitalism was social integration and civil rights? No. Then why do you keep practicing capitalism in a capitalist society looking for civil rights and social integration? You're at odds with the society you live in. You're at odds with it. You're swimming upstream. You're swimming upstream. You keep talking about socialism in a capitalist society. Nobody else is concerned about, even China and Russia now has become capitalistic. They're not trying to be socialistic anymore. They're looking for wealth and power and resources. Only people want to practice socialism is black folk. We want to be able to look about civil rights and social integration. And so capitalism means owning and controlling those resources. And that's what my powernomics stuff is about. We're going to learn how to own and control resources and power and wealth to take care of our own people. Immigration. Also understand immigration. That immigration is not your friend. In 1791, in the first immigration law and naturalization law, it stipulated that this is an immigrant nation. And there can be no black immigrants. That only Europeans can come here to be a white nation. That is, and the black people then are the only people in America that are non-immigrants. I'm telling you this so now when you start watching these politicians, they keep talking about what they're doing for immigrants. Immigrants are coming to this country to replace you, to supplant you, to get over you. They're not coming here to be your friend. You're looking for love in all the wrong places. They're not coming here to get along with you. They're coming here to get over you and above you and take you out. The National Hispanic Party told me that back in 1972 when they met out here in Kansas City. When one of my friends who's been with the Bay of Pigs from Cuba told me, he said, Dr. Anderson, he says, we're going to dominate starting about the year 2000. We're going to take black folk out. We're going to become the #1 minority in this country because black folk don't understand the issues.
Damn.
And they hit it right on the head. You're no longer #2 in this country, you're now #3. They passed you in population. And in about another 15 or 20 years, you're going to move from where you are now. You were the #2 population for almost 300, 400 years. Hispanics made you #3, third-class citizens. And when these Arabs and Asians get together, you're going to become 4th-class citizens. Because they're going to dominate and dictate over you. And that's why the Hispanic says that anything from now on in this country must come through them first before it goes to black folk. But yet you got all your leadership, all your political leadership, all your civil rights leaders are always talking about, we are people of color. Who are you talking about? Well, those are our brothers. No, they're not. Hispanics were classified as whites up to 1970. In the country right now, 99 7/10%, only 0.3% of people who speak Spanish in the United States are black. The other 99 7/10 are whites speaking Spanish. Right now, Hispanic is nothing but a white person speaking Spanish. And they're coming here getting benefits over you that should have been going to you. In this city, all these benefits they're getting for running for office, all these programs and everything, all this help that should have been going to blacks in the city of Los Angeles are going to them.
Right.
They're getting it because you don't raise hell about it. You don't make an issue out of it. Right. They're not entitled to those benefits, and it's illegal and unconstitutional because you go back to the 13th Amendment. It says very specifically that black folks must be treated in all manners similar to the way white folk are treated, or the white man is treated. Now, you're not being treated as whites. You're being treated when they come in and dominate and over you. Yeah. The Slaughterhouse case in 1872 said the same thing. When whites down in Louisiana tried to use the 14th Amendment. And the court says that whites cannot use the 14th Amendment. Hispanics are whites. They can't come in and say they're looking for due process. They want equal protection. They want affirmative action. You can't do it because the Slaughterhouse case said it was illegal for anything but black folk. It's illegal. I don't see any blacks raising Cain about it. If you're going to march and demonstrate, that's what you should be raising Cain about. How is it all the things that were set aside for you is going to everybody else? You're sitting there sleeping.
Right. And that's the bigger part is like they keep on telling us that is not the truth when in all actuality, it really is. And when people call it out, we're called racist or we're called y'all just are hateful, and whole time it's the truth. And they just don't want people to know the truth, man. And that's serious and that's straight up. I hope people are trying to get educated. I'm gonna go look up that Slaughterhouse case that Dr. Anderson was talking about. And I'm I'm gonna look it up. So I'm gonna get up out of here today. But here goes. Like I said, I don't hide anything. I don't run. I don't hide. And I just am who I am. And it's crazy to me as always to see like a lot of these black people that were cool with me at one point, and then when I call them out, that's when they have the issue with me. And that's really crazy to me. Is like, so it was all fine and dandy when I was working with you and you were using my research and all my words, then it was okay. But then the minute I call you out, it's a problem. And to me, those are the people that are a problem in our communities: the Cortez Rices, the Jerry McAfees, the L. Flowers, the Latricia Vitas, the Lisa Clements. You know, those are the people that are setting Minneapolis backwards because they're gatekeepers. Those are the people that control Minneapolis for Mayor Frey. So again, I'll see y'all Friday, same time, same place. Here you go, Don Tripp, Eddie Valero, meet in person. And I'll see y'all on Friday. Have a good one. Make sure you stay hydrated. It's supposed to be warm. Make sure that you're staying cool. All right. I'll see y'all Friday. Have a great Thursday. Thirsty Thursdays, Titty Thursdays, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So here goes Don Tripp, Eddie Valero, meet in person, and I'll see y'all Friday.
Yeah, this better. That's way better. Productions. Yeah. Everybody hate Chris, well in this case they hate Big Eddie too. Yeah. Green tips and some fast shit, keep it neat, make sure they fed it new. Sign for what? Been having my way, drop one on ready to.
And I would've made Forbes if they could keep up with my revenue. I just bought another 308, I hope to never use. If push come to shove, I gladly push you off your pedestal. Long as I can learn from my mistakes, then I can't never lose. I woke up to another 100K, I'm in a pleasant mood.
Trip don't wear no jury, got enough ice for the both of us. Easy bake, cook like an air fryer, we keep them toasts tucked. Still ain't touched the meal, this shit in reach right now, I'm close as fuck. Knew me from the sack, that mean they probably bought some dope from us.
And ain't no more bananas on the K, we carry coconuts. Cross a nigga, word to Jesus Christ, you niggas holy fuck. Drunk off success, yes, I hope I never sober up. Can you believe these motherfuckers pay me just for showing up? If it ain't on PlayStation or my babies, I don't wanna play. If I ain't already where the paper at, I'm on the way.
Nephew laces